Well, it is Tuesday, and usually at this time, and actually always on a Tuesday here at this point of the show, that's when we bring in Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services of East Lansing. We're going to talk about ADHD, procrastination, and how the two are connected. And this is one that could very well hit home with me because my daughter, who I talked about in the first hour of the show, she's got ADHD, and so I can relate to a sense as a parent. But we're going to talk about that and procrastination here with Dr. Braccio, and he's on the other end of our line. Good morning, Doc.
Well, Rich, always a pleasure to get a chance to do these sessions with you in the morning. So
yeah, absolutely. It's been a long time, actually, since I've last talked with you.
That is right. I always enjoy it. And let's talk about this today, ADHD and procrastination. You know, the hallmarks of ADHD are lack of focus, inattention, hyperactivity, impulsivity, and some combination of those. And often comorbid with this condition is procrastination. It's a reasonable outcome if you consider that persons with ADHD have problems dealing with projects and activities they have little interest, and the result can be procrastination. This is particularly true with long and multi-step projects and activities. Ambiguity of any type can also lead to confusion and difficulty on how to complete a required task. Procrastination is often a way to deal with the anxiety and worry that can result from this ambiguity or uncertainty of how to attack what is often a major activity. The results can be problems meeting responsibilities that are required in a person's life. And if one cannot complete required activities in their personal and working lives, well, the result can be poor work performance and problems in personal relationships. The common result in persons with ADHD is that they procrastinate too often and wait until the last minute to complete things. This becomes to them a normal pattern in their lives. They often will even say they can't work on long and difficult projects until the very last minute. And then they can work for many hours because they're highly motivated to complete the activity out of necessity. The problem with it is that responsibilities are often not met because there's not enough time to complete the task, or the work that is done is shabby, does not meet the requirements of the activity. Persons who do not have problems with lack of focus and attention, procrastination, they believe the person with these traits just needs to work a little harder, be more responsible, and just do what's required. Now, while it's true, it is true, a person must try to do this to be successful in their lives. It also is true this can be exceptionally difficult to do if one has these hallmarks of ADHD. Now, Rich, even though there are really persons who can be helped with a medication such as an Adderall or other medications, there really still are things that persons must do with or without medication to fight procrastination. These would include you have to set limits for what you will and will not do so you do not get overwhelmed. Break down difficult and multi-step activities into smaller ones, make the task less intimidating. Plan time breaks to keep fresh and not procrastinate and be off to do other things. Place yourself physically, whenever possible, in an area away from the noise and distractions that occur in everyday life, and not give yourself an environment to drift off into other activities. Set specific, reasonable expectations for yourself. Identify triggers that lead to procrastination, replace them with the ones that keep you on task, and choose 3 to 5 things to do any day and reward yourself with, when you complete them. And if you have someone in your home with ADHD, then probably some of this really hits home, Rich, because there's often a lack of understanding by the person who doesn't have these characteristics. The idea is, well, golly, why can't they just get these things done on time, and why are they going off from one activity to another? Why can't they pay attention when we're talking? Because sometimes they can play games and they can do things for hours. Well, the problem is, unless there is a high motivation, if you do have these problems, particularly with the inattention, lack of focus, it can certainly lead to procrastination and can really wear you out and even wear out those around you that can't figure out why you're procrastinating. But if you really understand the process of ADHD and how this works, then it is definitely a condition that can be difficult to deal with. And we're not talking here about people that purposefully choose not to do things or just won't get them done. We're talking about people that really struggle to get things done and trouble keeping their mind on tasks that need to be done and just can easily have their mind running off in many different ways. I do a lot of this myself, so I can be sympathetic to this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I'm kind of the same way, too. And I think adults maybe and kids for that matter, who don't have ADHD, I mean, we're kind of guilty of the same thing. But for kids here, now that we kind of bring this up, the procrastination part of this with people with ADHD, with my daughter now in school, she's going to be in third grade. And in second grade, she was having homework on a regular basis. And a lot of times it would be the very last thing that she would do before bedtime. And I always, it is a struggle to encourage her to get it done maybe a little bit earlier. But for procrastination, is it a problem more for kids than adults? Is it the other way around, or does age not matter in this sense?
Well, it's both. I mean, I think that ADHD is a condition that normally people develop early. Okay, we see it early, but it also develops in adults, and some people actually even get ADHD as they get older. But I think either, like, if you're in a job and you can't get things done, okay, or you wait to the very last minute, that becomes your pattern. You tend to procrastinate. You begin to think that is you. You begin to think, well, this is just how I'm put together. I work best when I have 2 hours to do what I really need 8 hours to normally do. So it hits all ages. It really doesn't matter your age. It's kind of an equal opportunity activity in terms of procrastination. But we do have to try to, if it's ourselves or our children, we have to try to help them, in terms of set up environments where they're not going to be easily distracted, in an environment where they're going to be encouraged to get things done, on time. And then, as I mentioned here, there can be a reward. Like if you're an adult, you can have an award for yourself. But if it's a child, we can, say, like, if you get this done, you can have this, or and also positive reinforcement, because there's another thing too. If we're talking about children, but talking about children, we want to catch them when they're being good, okay? Because remember, the problem with the ADHD person, if you're a person with those characteristics, they're often very good on their own when they find things that interest them. A lot of times parents don't want to bother them. They say, well, look, you don't have to worry about them. Look at them now. They're doing this. They find it could be a game, whatever it might be. So we want to encourage that, and then hopefully they can build on that. Because just because you have ADHD characteristics doesn't mean that you can't be enormously successful. It doesn't mean that you can't overcome a lot of these. You just need to be encouraged. You need to have an environment that can best help you, and you need to begin to see the advantages of getting things done early. This is hard to do with kids in particular if they have trouble focusing, paying attention. They can wear out themselves, and their parents, I might add. They can do that too. So it is important to focus on this. A lot of times people just think of medication, and obviously the stimulants can be helpful to, in terms of helping a number of persons be able to focus more effectively. On the other hand, there are many, many people that certainly don't take medication, that in either situation, it's important that the person be able to focus, be able to learn to focus as best they can, learn activities, find things that work for them. This becomes the important thing. Things that work for them, so they don't put things off to the end. But again, with kids, positive reinforcement, rewards, atta-girl, atta-boy, these kind of things can be very, very helpful in having the person function more effectively. And we have to be aware that it's difficult if you have these traits to just up and say, oh, I'm going to sit and work an hour or two on this, or I'm just going to do this. No, a lot of times having breaks can be helpful too. Like work 20 minutes and then we'll take a 10-minute break and then we'll come back. Now, the argument against that could be, well, what you're doing there is you're going to take a lot longer to get it done. And I would say, yeah, that's true. On the other hand, you're going to have a better chance of having the person focus, and they know that if they can work for this certain period of time, there's going to be a break, and then they'll come back. So those are things that can be helpful. And every person is different, I might add, Rich. So it's not like there's one pattern that you almost have to have this different arrows for your bow for each person that has this condition, and they all, we can say they have these characteristics, but every person is different, and everybody works better with different rewards or different expectations. But as parents, if we're talking about the children in this case, we just have to try to work with them, find what works best for them, and work with the teacher to the school just to try to have things be the best that they can be all the way around. And I might add, these are not necessarily bad traits. A lot of times persons with these characteristics have more energy than most people. They're up more than most people. They're divergent thinkers. They can see things other people don't notice. So, I mean, if there are a lot of good traits if they can be channeled in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Short on time here. Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services of East Lansing, talking about ADHD and procrastination and the tie-in between the two. Definitely a connection there. Dr. Braccio, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Always a pleasure. Nice talking to you, my friend. Bye-bye.